Hi, this is Sonia from An Enthusiastic Reader. I am here today to do a tag, and I was tagged by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and the original tag is created by Steve Donoghue, and I have linked both of their videos below for this tag. It's called the Rootin Tootin June on the Range tag. June on the Range is a group reading event on BookTube where people read Westerns. I hadn't necessarily planned on reading any Westerns, but I may. I thought this would be a fun tag to do because I actually do live in the West, and that's the first prompt. A ways out west, have you ever been to the American West? Yes, I live in the Mountain West. I live in Colorado. I live in a suburb of Denver. And so my family has been in Colorado since the early 1900s. And my great-grandmother was born here in 1901. So I have deep ties to Colorado. Okay. Dry Gulch. What's the smallest town you've ever visited? How small is your town right now? Okay. When I was a teenager, my grandfather was working in oil shale on the western slope of Colorado. And so he and my grandmother lived in a teeny tiny town for a time called Grand Valley. And I think maybe there were like 20 or 30 people there. Eventually they ended up moving to Rifle, which is a town that's kind of down the road from Grand Valley. And that is so a lot of people who work in oil production, fracking, etc., live on the western slope. The other question is, how small is your town now? The suburb I live in is about 110,000 people, and the greater Denver metro area is, I can't believe that this is true, but I looked it up, 2.9 million people in this area. So it is a big geographical area, but I just can't fathom that we have that many people here now, because when I was growing up, there weren't nearly that many people even in the whole state. Prompt number 3, I'm being distracted by wildlife everywhere. There's birds and there's a squirrel over there. My next door neighbor's dog is over there. Okay, number 3, where the buffalo roam. Have you ever seen an American bison in person? Yes. There are bison around. When I was a kid growing up, there was this herd of bison right off of I-70 going up towards the mountains, and we would always, when we were driving up to the mountains or driving home to Denver or wherever, we would be looking for those buffalo kind of standing near the fence along the highway. And I've also been to Yellowstone and other parks where there are bison there. They are huge and you need to stay away from them. They are dangerous. What's the largest hoofed animal you've ever seen? I think a bison is probably the biggest animal I've seen. Do you have any evidence that you live near coyotes? Yes, we have coyotes in our neighborhood. They kind of wax and wane. Like some years there'll be a lot of them in the neighborhood, and sometimes we won't see them very often. But when they do have a bigger population, then they come and they jump over fences and eat all the outdoor cats and little dogs. So people are always on nextdoor.com or something saying, watch your animals, be careful. We also have hawks that come down, swoop down. We have an overpopulation of rabbits, and so they are constantly kind of swirling over our skies looking for rabbits and other small animals. Number 4, Ol Doc Frye. What's your history with Westerns? Novels, TV, movies? My greatest connection to Westerns is through my grandfather, and he was always watching reruns of Westerns, and he constantly was reading Westerns. He was a big reader, but he read a lot of genre fiction, mostly Westerns, and he loved it. And he's the one who called up my mother and said, and this was in 1985, the summer, I remember it well, told her that she had to read Lonesome Dove, and we're all kind of saying, oh, we don't read Westerns, we don't want to read this. And he said, you have to read this. So my mother read it, and then she told me I have to read it. So I read it in the summer of 1985, and it was such a memorable encounter with a book. I don't think I've ever been that immersed in a book before in my entire life, and I've been reading forever. But that McMurtry really knew how to, reel us in and put us right on a cattle drive. Number 5, Diamond Lil at the Rialto saloon. What's your relationship with alcohol? Personally, I think I have a pretty social and healthy relationship with alcohol. I drink some, but not very much and not a lot. And so My days of hangovers are long past. I've decided a long time ago that's not how I want to live, to wake up with a headache, and so I am pretty good about keeping myself to 1 or 2 drinks at any given time. And it's ever had a friendship with a bartender, and I'd say my mother was a bartender briefly in her life, so yes. Number 6, the city slicker from back east. What do you consider the best Western you've ever read? Well, as I just said, I think Lonesome Dove is probably by far the best Western I ever read. But the second place is True Grit. That is another fantastic and evocative, hilarious, and so scary, so harrowing and suspenseful and just delightful novel that I would recommend anyone would read. True Grit. Number 7, The Man with a Badge. Have you ever been in charge of other people? What's the most authority you've ever handled? Would you be good at it? I would say the most authority I've ever handled is the way I have wrangled and taken authority of my children, and I think I was mildly successful. Number 8, The Tombstone Kid. Have you ever fired a gun, been a gun aficionado, been shot? No. I have some family members who hunted. My grandfather hunted. My uncle, they were always going out and shooting deer for meals. It was something that was used for sustenance. And I've never been a gun person, and I don't want to have a gun, and I don't want to shoot a gun. I want nothing to do with guns. Number 9, it ain't the bullet that gets you, it's the fall. How would you ideally like to cash in your chips? Well, isn't it everybody's dream just to maybe fall asleep and never wake up and not suffer and just go into the night and never wake up? That's my dream. And it says to tag some people. I think quite a few people have done this tag, so as I always say in tags, if you think this sounds like a fun tag, you are tagged. And that's it for today, for this video, and I will be back soon to talk about what I've read recently and some summer books and summer plans that I have coming up. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.